What is up, everybody? Derek Lambert here, MythVision podcast. I hope that my mic is going to do okay tonight and it doesn't get glitchy during this live stream. I am joined by none other than Neil Sinlack from Gnostic Informant. His social security number is 247. I'm just kidding. What's up, man? Welcome back.
Right. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, shh. Okay, everybody, guess the rest. Yeah. So I got a little echo coming in. I don't know if that's. Yeah. So, look, we have fun. YouTube has kind of the drama that goes on back and forth. And those of you know, I started a series of things kind of responding to apologetic stuff that I just think is mistaken, wrong. We could psychoanalyze all we want. In the first response, I glanced at this conference, didn't even watch the whole thing, glanced at this conference, saw a statement by Michael Jones, pulled that statement, found other claims, that were made by William Lane Craig saying there are no dying and rising god myths in the ancient world, which is just, honestly, either he hasn't caught up with like the contemporary scholarship on this, and is it being more nuanced, or just is outright wrong or dishonest, or, we could play those games. People love throwing those words around. And we've thrown those words around. So before we get too deep into this, let me go ahead and pull the rabbit out of the hat and say up front that in my last live stream, when I was addressing Michael Jones, and I did a couple recordings with someone mentioning that Michael Jones got the dating of the source, he said, that Dionysus turned water into wine. He says it is a source that Dionysus turned water into wine. Very interesting how he came to his conclusion in the last stream he just did 30 minutes ago and wouldn't talk to me because he's mad at me right now. And I get it. He's upset. He takes this stuff personal. He gets offended easily. And I just want to squash the whole thing and try to move forward. Personally, Neil doesn't give a shit. Okay, let's just keep it real. Neil doesn't care. I'm not here. I'm more sensitive to these things, and I'm more of a caring kind of teddy bear, right, Neil? Wouldn't you say?
I agree with that.
People say I'm a bit naive for that, but it's got me this far in life, and I think I try to keep doing that. But I want to say, number one, I was wrong that he did correct the date and did not catch that in his live stream. I was actually driving with you, Neil. We were coming back from Gad Barnea, and we were listening to some of the live stream, and we were listening and then skipping a little and listening a little. So I didn't hear the entire thing of him actually making that correction, even though I was in the chat. I just wasn't actually paying attention. And for that, I apologize. I was absolutely wrong. IP, I will not be showing at your door at 2:30 in the morning, sending you legal notes to have you take down. Of course, I'm joking with the whole Billy Carson stuff.
That's wild. That's wild stuff.
I know. Like, whoa. But I want to address the Joshua Bowen stuff real quick, Neil. We are going to deal with water and wine. We are going to deal with Epiphany stuff. We are going to still double down on some things that we really think just...
Well, I got more. I'll bring more sources. That's what I'll do.
We're going to bring more and more. And by the way, we got so much more even than what we're bringing here. We're actually working on an article. Are we not, Neil? We're working on putting together something.
Academic art. We've talked to scholars that think that you and I have a case to have a legitimate academically sound case about the January 6th Epiphany.
Exactly.
Based on
Joshua,
primary sources. Yeah.
Just to get that out of the way with Joshua Bowen and Nana, right? So Jones pointed out the chronology. He's upset. That is my interpretation on why he thinks we purposefully are lying or being deceiving or whatever. Of course, his audience will eat that up. Dude, guys, thank you, skeptic audience, friends in the chat. I don't care if you're Christian or not. We have a very good community. Yes, some of you guys are toxic as hell. I don't like it. Honestly, sometimes you guys get real cringy. But compared to what I experienced in their chat, it is bad. I'm talking like no fruits of the spirit. It's very rare to find a Christian who's literally defending me or at least trying to be kind in that way in the chat. I just came out of his Inspiring Philosophy chat. There was like 900 people, 1,000 people watching. And I was very shocked to find the treatment, the continuous abuse from so many of them. I was just like, dude, so don't be like that. Don't. Be good people. Try to empathize and understand this shit is deep. And the reason people hold on to these things, there may be several factors at play. Sometimes we are dishonest in our motivations, or we are wrong about what we say when we're in our driving home some point. So Joshua Bowen, I reached out to Joshua Bowen and said, hey, dude, look at this video and tell me if Michael Jones is correct. I did not realize Jones was actually going to show the entire text that I never got to see. Joshua Bowen actually called me and was like, oh my God, dude, I'm sorry that Jones is putting you on the spot like that. Literally, I did not check the dates.
It also cut off. He also cut. I don't know what happened with his microphone. It magically cut off right when he's about to read Josh Bowen's rebuttal of why he thinks that the interpretation is incorrect and why the plain reading is much easier.
That never got answered.
As soon as he's about to read that part, his mic cuts out. When his mic magically cuts back on, I'm not saying there was anything intent there, but it was weird. His mic cuts back on right when he's done reading that part. And then you think he was going to reread that part because he found out from his audience that his mic is muted. He doesn't go back and read it. He just goes to the next
I text him. I even try because I do have his number, and I'm not like calling or harassing or anything. I was literally just trying to help him because he was for 5 minutes, bro. You were watching, others were watching, and I didn't want him to like go on for 10 and not realize, hey, I want to hear what he had to say. I want to hear what he had to say. I want to know.
So did I.
Dude, we honestly, our motivations, yes, we are passionate, we're driven, maybe speaking past, maybe even sometimes over exaggerating. That can happen on both ends, right? It's going to happen. We're human. But Joshua Bowen is saying he's sorry, 100% his fault. Josh didn't recognize the chronology and was like, when he responded to me, I didn't see these texts. I'm thinking to myself, hold on, how did he go to Josh? You can imagine where I'm coming from, right? How did he go to Josh and then turn around and make this conference and not get correction from a real bona fide expert who reads this material and at least go up there and go, look, I know I'm against the grain here, and I know that the Assyriologists and the great brains and minds think this, but I'm going with this guy in 1967. I thought he was being a bit dishonest too.
I will say this though: when you're going up on a stage to do a conference, to do a speech, you should do your research more. It's not an excuse that he talked to Josh after that. You know what I'm saying? That's not that doesn't get you out of the fact that you still went up on stage and spewed a bunch of nonsense about this passage, trying to.
Look, I make videos, right? Let's be honest. I've made videos in the past where I know I don't agree with myself and think I'm wrong. Okay, that was in the past. But this would have been the time during this for him to go, I actually changed my mind and I am persuaded that Joshua Bowen's interpretation. He didn't do that. He was too focused. And maybe I'm reading into this a bit too much. And he's so emotionally driven toward defending himself.
That's a great point.
He put it on record right then.
You just made a really great point. He acknowledged. So on one hand, he's acknowledging, oh, I did this speech and then I talked to an expert later. So that gets me out of trouble. But then on the other hand, he doesn't actually go, but since this Syriologist is coming to me after my speech,
right?
And we talked, and I get it. I didn't understand the atta, the verb form, that present, past tense thing. I didn't understand. Now I get that. Holy shit! Okay, let's move. He doesn't do that. He still, after all that was said and done, he still went back to that paper that he was talking about from who was that anyway?
Landez. So no, a bona fide Hebrew Bible scholar. He may be a believer or something, but I wouldn't call him an apologist.
He's not a Syriologist, though.
He's not aware of Sumerian.
I'm sorry, but that's enough right there to go, dude. You're not being. No offense. I'm not saying the guy's a bad scholar, but we're talking about Sumerian.
Yeah,
you don't ask a classicist about Coptic stuff. You ask about Greek and Latin. You don't go to Egyptologist about Germanic legends. You just don't do that.
Exactly. And I get that. I just want to address that to say up front, that became the gotcha. So two things on the entire stream for me were like hit home. This one, which really ended up becoming kind of a miscommunication, and the chronology became a gotcha where it looks like we're lying in his eyes. And in our eyes, it looked like he was lying. Who's lying? Well, Josh was like, dude, my bad. I didn't mean to. I didn't realize the chronology wasn't this. Then the other one was a mistake on my end, not thoroughly analyzing the live stream and seeing him go, I'm sorry. The source that I mentioned was actually 2nd century. So he did correct himself. However, I do want to address Achilles Tatius here, because using his own reasoning based on what he did when I brought up my sources, and he did it again in this live stream. Neil, what is an epiphany? Let's talk about that for 1 second. What is an epiphany?
literally the appearance, the manifestation of, well, a theophany would be a manifestation of a god.
Right.
Epiphany can be also applied to a god or a human or anything. I mean, it means a manifestation. Sometimes it's an epithet for a lot of these Seleucid, Ptolemaic kings, Pergamon kings.
It's a common
Antiochus Epiphanes. Right. It means like the manifested one. You know what
I
mean?
So Christians clearly, as we will point out, celebrate the baptism as Epiphany. The birth is an epiphany. Yeah. The wedding at Cana is an epiphany. Here is a God man showing his divineness. Dionysus is celebrated on January the 5th. And he's literally transforming.
It's called an epiphany by multiple sources. By the way, exactly. Ana Jimenez Cristobal, the scholar, the classicist, wrote an article. And so this is big because he brought up that article about saying that we don't know for sure if the Andros tradition is connected to the Naxos tradition, or if that's connected to the Thaya, or if the Thaya is connected to the Theodosia. No, that's a solid.
Yeah.
We can debate all
There's
this.
So many of these.
Ana Cristobal, in 2021 peer-reviewed article says this is one tradition.
Right.
That's what she was arguing.
And she expresses there are other traditions too, right. But like this is a very important point. He did bring up a book. I did bring this up. I got the book here. We have some sources, of course, we can get into in the Greek and stuff as well, because you've been doing your Greek lately. Thomas J. Talley went ahead and grabbed that so that I can actually look at this later. This was something Michael Jones brought up. I'm curious to see what he has, and I want to evaluate this later, but I did get the book. I want to show that I am diving into this because me and you, Neil, I don't know if Jones has any idea how much research you and I have been doing into this, how deep we have been going into this Epiphany stuff and trying to recognize the correlation and the celebration and Epiphany of Jesus on the exact same day as Dionysus. And
real quick on the topic of the Epiphany being the baptism and not a birth, that's not surprising. Yeah. Given John's gospel does not have a birth account. So Basilides, when Clement of Alexandria around 198 or so is describing these births that people are coming up with in Stromata Book 1. And he's going, these people say it's May 20th. These people say it's July. This person says it was last week, whatever. He's just going through. And then he goes, and the Basilideans celebrate the baptism as his day on, and he says the 15th of Tybee, but others say it was the 11th of Tybee, which would be January 6th. And he says they spend the previous night in readings, January 5th.
Right.
The reason why this is important is because you can infer from that. He's talking about birth celebrations, and then he mentions this baptism celebration. Basilides, according to Hippolytus and Irenaeus, and I think there's another refutator from the late 2nd, early 3rd century, who makes it pretty clear that the Basilideans thought the birth was his baptism.
Right.
Hence the Epiphany.
That's why they correlated the two. Yeah. That's why they said 30 years later.
Hippolytus has this beautiful passage about how the Basilideans believe that when the dove came down as the Holy Spirit, Christ was begotten on that day.
That is when the incarnation took place, according to Basilides.
Yeah. Right. And even the calculation theory scholars like Nothaft and Schmidt, these recent articles that are about why they calculated December 25th and how let's be caution about the Sol Invictus stuff. It might have happened before that. They also point out that the January 6th thing is the oldest one. It predates the December 25th thing. And Nothaft pointed out that he thinks that's why they wanted to get that birthed around the winter solstice, because they already were kind of hanging around that time anyway, January 6th. Right. He pointed that out to Tim O'Neill in his podcast.
So, and IP actually mentioned that one of the explanations people try to make for why Christians just coincidentally land on the exact same Epiphany date for their Epiphany, and it is an Epiphany. I don't know. I don't want to strawman him or misspeak for Jones if he thought that wasn't an Epiphany.
Right.
On January the 5th.
Multiple sources. It's called Epiphany by Diodorus and relates to Dionysus, and it's called Epiphany by Epiphanius.
I don't think he's talking about the Dionysus one being an Epiphany.
I'm saying it's called Epiphany in both cases.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly
what Epiphanius calls an Epiphany for Christ. So does St. John Chrysostom, and so does a couple of later sources. But then when it comes to the Dionysus, they call it an Epiphany. It's very, and they both have a wine miracle involved. They're both on the same day, and even to this day, Coptic churches, Armenian churches, and some Greek churches, and I think Syrian, Eastern churches, they start the Epiphany tide. They call it the Theophany week on January 5th. And it says that on January 5th, not the 6th, they bless a stream of water. And we can pull up the St. John Chrysostom passage if you want.
Yeah. Let's pull that up.
And so while you're pulling that up,
thanks to Stephen Nelson for the slides.
Yeah, to this very day, on January 5th, they bless the nearest stream of water to whatever church they're in. And then on the next day, they do it in a baptismal font in the church. So there's January 5th and January 6th are linked together in the church, just as it was with the Theodosia festival. So I think there's a lot going on there. These are a lot of very specific things.
So we still need to get the Greek in this, and we're working on these as we go. But
we're pulling it up. But this is the standardized translation. It says, "Why not? Why is it not that day on which the Lord was born, called Theophany?" Remember that's Epiphany with Theos in front of it. God Epiphany. Why is it considered Theophany? But rather this day which he was baptized. This present day it is on which he was baptized and sanctified the nature of water. Remember that thought, right?
The nature of water.
Because on this day, all having obtained the waters do carry it home and keep it all year. Since today the waters are sanctified, and an obvious phenomenon occurs. These waters, in their essence, do not spoil with the passage of time, but obtained today for one whole year, and often for 2 or 3, they remain unharmed and fresh, and afterwards for a long time do not stop being water, just as that obtained from the fountains. Right. So we're talking about fountains here. We're not talking about jugs of water. And it says, when then is this day called Theophany? Because Christ made himself known to all, Epiphany. Not then when he was born, but then when he was baptized.
Right.
Okay. You have a water transformation theme happening. It doesn't now we're done with the wine thing. This is in the 4th century. It looks like at this point the tradition is sort of moving away from the wine thing and sort of going into a holy water thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, right? And you and I talked about that. Like we're definitely gonna have to dig deeper into some of these sources to see, is this a sanctified version, a Christianized form of something that is a carryover? Because let's go to Epiphanius for 1 second. This is so powerful, bro.
You and I are on the same page.
Oh, you and me are one, dude. We're 2 peas in a pod here. Epiphanius, and there's 2 versions of this. Right here is, which version is this? This is the earlier one with Ion, isn't it? No, this is not. No,
that's the one you want.
This is the one I want. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so the 11th of Tebet, for those who don't know, is January the 5th. Right?
That's the 6th.
Oh, it's the 6th. So we're right here at the similar. The night of the 5th to the 6th is literally the celebration.
If you're going on a lunar calendar, it is the night of the 5th.
Got it.
So the lunar calendars are at night. Solar calendars are morning. That's why it's sun. Get it? You see the moon. When you see the moon, it's the new day. That's a lunar calendar. All right, go ahead.
Got it. The first sign occurred in Cana of Galilee when the water was made wine. Now, what's the Cana of Galilee? We know this is the wedding that took place. The John chapter 2 passage, right? Therefore, even in many places up to the present day, this occurs as a testimony to the unbelievers. I'd love to see that happen myself. Because of the divine sign that happened then, as many springs and rivers in various places are said to change into wine. For example, the spring...
Notice how it's not a can of jugs of stone thing. No. This is a different Christian tradition that we lost. What is he talking about here? He's talking. He's not talking about Dionysus here. This is not Andros.
Jesus.
This is Jesus transforming springs of water,
doing exactly what Dionysus was said to do long before. This is my point. And at what point do you need a verbal, verbatim, analytical, one for one in order to know? Or
Stephen, I don't know if this is there a passage before this that Stephen did put on the slide before this? Because right before this, I can pull it up too if you don't have it.
Which one?
What does he have before that? What does he have before that?
Just however, from all accounts, before that he goes to Plutarch, Lysander.
Okay, never mind. I'll pull it up. Because in that passage, it's not on the screen. Right before that, Epiphanius says that these Christians that are doing this spring of water miracle thing on January 6th say that Christ was born after a term of 7 months.
Right.
Now, you know that's very specific. What the hell? 7 months. Well, guess what happens in Diodorus's account? Which includes springs of water turning into wine. Dionysus it's actually Osiris, he says, son of Semele. Son of Semele. That's like saying John the Baptist, son of Mary. Like you're combining Osiris and Dionysus into one. He says Osiris, son of Semele, was born after a term of 7 months, and this is called the Epiphany. He calls it an Epiphany. I'll pull it up right now if you don't believe.
Yeah, pull that up while I want to finish this point here, because listen, he's not just talking about some weird myth, supposedly like a tradition that you can't check for yourself kind of thing. He literally says, for example, the spring of the city of Kibera in Caria, from which the servants drew water, and he said, give to the master of the feast. Likewise, the spring in Gerasa of Arabia also bears witness. For we ourselves have drunk from the spring of Kibera, and our brothers have drunk from the spring in Gerasa at the shrine. Dude, this is a Christian Jesus shrine that is in these locations. Those earlier traditions that Pliny's talking about, these aren't just some springs. I've got classicists that'll tell you these are shrines of Dionysus. These are holy sites where the god manifests. Epiphany, there are shrines. And when you get away from the shrine, according to the story in Pliny that is given to him by Musanus, which is 3-time consul, he's important. This guy was someone next to Vespasian. He's big.
Yeah.
He literally says that the wine starts tasting, and this doesn't make sense, right?
No, the idea that we're going to put arbitrary marks around how the text, like,
I just got to ask everyone in the chat.
The water.
Let me ask everyone in the chat right now, everyone in the chat, if something starts to taste like it, wouldn't you assume it's pretty obvious that you're saying it's becoming that thing? If it starts if wine, as you get away from the god, starts to taste like water, isn't it assumed in the text, obvious common sense, you would say, that is now becoming water? It's starting to taste like it. Why wouldn't you think? By the way,
look at that last sentence. Everyone draws water and stores it in Egypt. That's what John Chrysostom was saying that they're doing in this. There's so many things, little minor details that are crossing paths here. It's very strange.
I just had to nail that, bro, because you're so beyond that. I know.
Let me show you the passage about that right before this.
Got it.
So this is the same text. It just got clipped out of that one for some reason. But if you can see, it says, so you should find this in a marginal gloss somewhere. Do not be misled by this information. The actual date of Christ's birth is the 11th of Tybi. It has been shown by every means that the Lord's birth took place in the flesh, the 11th of Tybi, January 6th. And the first miracle of Cana happened. Is this the 7-month birth thing?
I don't see the 7 months there. Maybe it's above.
Here it is. I'm at the wrong spot. This is right before that.
7 months. Term of 7 months.
Here it is. This is Epiphany, same exact. This is right before that. For I also have found written somewhere in the world Christ was born, blah, blah, blah. Those who have given a date for the conception on Gabriel's bringing of the tides of the Virgin, certain persons who have it by tradition, Christ was born after a term of 7 months.
And this is exactly what Osiris Dionysus is carried a term for 7 months as well in one of the sources. So, I mean, there's just so much overlap, bro. You got shrines, same day, water into wine. And to nail that point, Neil, just to get your comment on this, I asked, if something starts to taste like water, wouldn't it be like trying to imply it's becoming that? I think so. But why is the wine turning into water, Neil? Why?
It's an epiphany.
No, why is the wine turning into water as he's
because you're leaving the God's presence. You're leaving the manifestation of the God. It's an opposite of an epiphany.
The opposite. You're getting away. Right. So it's pretty. That's not like it doesn't take much thinking to see that. All right.
Check this out right here. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Oh, okay, cool. This is Bibliotheca Diodorus from 50 BC. He says, Cadmus, who was a citizen of Egyptian Thebes, begot several children, one who is Semele. Okay, that's Dionysus' mother, and that's Dionysus' uncle. We all know the Euripides Bacchae. But this is weird. This is very weird. It's called a theocracia. It's when you mix gods together. This was very common in the 1st century. She was violated by an unknown person, became pregnant, and after 7 months, gave birth to a child whose appearance was such as the Egyptians hold that it's Osiris.
Yeah. And Plutarch says Dionysus is Osiris.
So does Herodotus, and so does a bunch of
people. Just saying it for people.
No, yeah. Great point. And now, such as the child is that not usually brought into the world alive, either because of the will of the gods or because law of nature does not permit it. But Cadmus, when he found out what had taken place, having the same time a reply from an oracle, commanding him to observe the laws of his fathers, he both gilded the infant and paid it appropriate sacrifices on that ground that it had been a sort of epiphany. What? The word epiphany is being applied here. To birth to a 7-month
You're making
birth.
It up, Neil. You're making it up.
It's just like there's so much lining up.
Parallelomania, Neil. Parallelomania.
Right.
You can't try to compare same day, same kinds of miracles,
same title,
Epiphany.
Yeah.
Okay.
Demigod, same 7-month birth.
Bro.
Waters more? Streams of water turning into wine.
How many other gods do that? How many other gods in the written accounts of the ancient world are turning streams, rivers, fountains, are known to do this kind of stuff?
0.
Now, if you could get me a handful, I'd be like, you know what? You're right. Maybe they just saw cultural diffusion of various deities, had Jesus come in and compete. Hard not to pin it down onto Dionysus here. It's really hard not to see that.
Oh, and by the way, Basilides, central gospel, John, as we pointed out.
Yep, that's another point.
If now Dennis MacDonald comes into play here, because he's demonstrated in his book that it's sort of riffing off the Bacchae and applying Dionysian things to Jesus all throughout John. John's gospel is very, very much the Greco-Roman friendly version of the gospel.
Yeah.
It's and like Dennis points out in his Dionysian gospel, it's riffing not just off Bacchic themes, but it's going in the same chronological order the Bacchae does.
Yes, occasionally you might have it move, but it's in places where contemporaneous stuff, like the water and the wine section in the Bacchae, is a shifted location, but it's even closely resembling the cauldron myth, which isn't in the Bacchae. It's a well-known, established tradition of Dionysus all throughout the Greco-Roman world. So,
as you point out, they're using certain lebes, which is a specific type of jug, bronze cauldron, used for ceremonial purification ceremonies or at weddings. And usually they have usually they're depicted with Dionysus and the satyrs and the maenads on them. That's how, and the archaeology, 9 out of 10 of these things look like that. But on top of that, in John's gospel, in John 2, at the wedding at Cana, when he says they brought out 6 stone jars, and then it says the ones they use for ceremonial purification. The John is winking at his Greek audience, going, you know your lebes. Here's the Jewish version of that. That's what he's doing.
I'm actually looking for that jar. You know which one I recently. It has Ariadne and Dionysus is a gift at a wedding. It's a water jar at a wedding gift that's made of bronze. And man, when you start to look at this, sure, I can't prove. Me nor Neil can prove, like give you every single thing you need to know in order to be perfectly confident with certain knowledge that this is absolutely riffing off of this tradition. But we have enough with the idea, there's 6 jars in Jesus and 3 in Dionysus. Double the miracle, double the fun, right? Well, on top of that, you have empty water vessels used for purification before you eat, having ceremony, whatever you're doing. In one case, it's stone jars. The other is bronze. And both are water jars that are empty. I have to add this. The one in John 2 is empty until Jesus says, add water to it. So it did not have water until he said add water.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
he added
really
water.
That's a really solid point.
That's important. Why is it empty? And then he's telling them to add it. I'm just saying, it doesn't prove anything. It adds confidence to all of this stuff that we're describing, bro. And Jones could say, I agree. He could say everything we just said, I agree. Derek, you put that into story. You put that into mythology or legend in some way. I think it happened. But I think it happened because I think Jesus is better than Dionysus. And guess what? And guess what? We think that's what John's doing too. We just don't interpret this as historically what happened. Was there a wedding in Cana that Jesus went to one day? Maybe. I have no way of knowing whether he did or didn't show up. But as far as the miracle goes, I don't think Dionysus really is doing these miracles. I wouldn't apply the same thing to Jesus. And so you get where I'm going with this. So we're getting off track there. But I needed to nail that down. He also tried to say that you were taking Mark Smith and the bald dying and rising God myth and saying Mark Smith never said that dying and rising God, almost like you might be implying that Mark Smith's saying that. When I edited the video, I pulled up his book, and I have his book, but I'd have to go and like literally dig and search.
Mark Smith and Jeremiah Coogan's translation over here somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't know where I put it. I was just looking at it too. I should be close by. But I have his translation, and the translation says in Mark Smith's translation, Baal is dead.
Right.
It's not so he put on the screen that Mark Smith doesn't think this. Mark Smith is in his article says, let's be cautious about how we interpret the resurrection.
Right. He doesn't interpret it as a dying and rising God. We understand that. Paula Corintha, or Paula, however you pronounce it. I just did an interview with her, by the way. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. You got an interview coming on dying and rising gods from a cutting edge, right now, contemporaneous scholar who is an expert in this. She studied Fraser. She knows Jonathan Z. Smith like the back of her hand, and she disagrees with Jonathan Z. Smith. And she's not ashamed of it. She wrote a book on this, and she's a PhD. She likes to call herself a classicist. She's also an anthropologist, and she's a comparative mythologist. We have an interview
Science of religions professor.
Bingo. She says, no, Baal died and rose again, and I understand why they want to argue it's ambiguous or not be so certain because we have a broken text. But she says Mott swallows him, literally going down into the underworld. It's a catabasis. He dies, Anat destroys Mott, and ends up resurrecting him through sewing him back. Okay, or is that Dionysus?
Yeah.
Either way, she says that he comes back to. Go ahead.
Jonathan Z. Smith. I think we're starting to get to an era where we're starting to think some of his ideas are dated, because why are we putting these arbitrary rules and putting things in certain boxes that can't, like this box can't influence this box because this box has specific parameters on it.
Right.
That's not how the Haitians think. It's not how culture works. So I disagree with Jonathan Z. Smith on this idea that we have to. Well, first of all, I think he's wrong about Fraser, and this is what Paola was talking about.
Yeah.
Fraser doesn't necessarily say these are all one thing being reinterpreted. Fraser is just pointing out that the cultural dynamics of these myths sort of have a lot of overlap. You've read Fraser too, don't you think he's misrepresented pretty hard?
I get it. He uses language at a time that was normal. Yeah. It's old. He uses words like primitive or savages or things like that. And he's describing oftentimes societies that when you're looking at how they're behaving and stuff compared to what we would consider first world countries, you would go, okay, hold on. That's not a organized society like we have today. You might call that savage or backwards or whatever people will call that. Well, that's too insensitive and that's too politically incorrect to do. And I understand why we want to be cautious about approaching it that way. But we read Darwin, don't we? Darwin speaks like this, and we learn from him. Well, in his book, the 12-volume, 13-volume book on the Golden Bow, over and over, Neil, he emphasizes, I could be mistaken, but if I'm correct, then this seems to be what the myth seems to be saying. And I'm like, and then at the end of the book, bro, he has this diatribe about how, look, I stand to be corrected. I'm always open to improve and correct whatever I'm doing in this assessment, but this seems to be all starting over understanding the Golden Bow over this.
There's this horrible book by a Christian pastor or something from a Protestant church, Alexander Hislop, and I don't know when it's. I think it's from 1807 or something, or 1850 or something. Yeah. It's in the 19th century, before Fraser. And when I read this a long time ago, back in like the Zeitgeist days, where I was trying to find the Jesus's.
I know what you mean. I would do that too.
When I heard about Fraser, when Fraser gets pointed out by Scott, people like Ehrman and others like Dan McClellan, they talk about Fraser like he's this guy. This guy's making up. There was a trinity in Babylon. It was Tammuz, Semiramis, and Marduk. And they were all a trinity, and Tammuz had 12 disciples, and Semiramis is basically Mary. Like, it's all nonsense.
Right.
Now, when I got introduced to Fraser, they made it seem like Fraser was like this. Fraser is completely nonsense, made up. And then I started reading Fraser. First thing I noticed, whoa, this was printed, peer reviewed by Princeton in 19 something or whatever.
1930 something is
so it wasn't this was like a really this guy is just printing his own stuff, like, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So right away I noticed, okay, we're not in the same world. Now we're in a different world. Then I started reading the book. I'm like, this guy's extremely scientific in his approach.
Very
extremely well balanced.
Bro, his whole remember I called you and I was like, listen, I'm gonna start this book. I'm traveling across the country, moving my family to Florida. And you were like, it's big, dude. You might want to skip like 7-8 chapters of magic. And I'm like,
yeah,
7 or 8 chapters.
The beginning about magic is like a crazy shit, but like
it works if you're listening to it instead of reading it because it's a lot. But I'm sitting there driving, right? And I was like, man, should I take Neil's advice and start like over here near Dying and Rising Gods, or should I go from the beginning? And I just was like, dude, I got 42 hours of driving. 42 hours of driving.
Yeah.
Turn it on, bro. My ears hurt from the headphones. I was so into it driving. I was sitting there going, oh my God, I've never heard anyone go into magic like this. Understanding sympathetic and going deep into the bro. I've never heard anyone so gangster go into all of this. It was amazing. I was like, okay, so now I need to go and look at more of this stuff. And you know me, I love looking for those comparative things.
There's a reason why in Apocalypse Now, one of the great books by Coppola, the great director of the famous movies, Godfather and all that. There's a reason why in that movie the guy from Vietnam, the trader guy, he's reading. This camera pans and he's reading. So it shows the Bible and it shows the Golden Bough. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. That was a cool little nod in that movie because it's a classic book. It's a classic book. It really is.
Absolutely.
It deserves its credit, and it deserves criticism too.
Without a doubt. But I think Paola pointed out the problem was all it gets today from scholars is criticism, and they want to silence it and have nothing to do with it.
They treat it like this, and it's crazy.
That is crazy. And I understand there's going to be mistakes. Of course, we can learn from it though. It still was a good book. I loved it. So he tried to get you on that and tried to nail you on Mark Smith. And Mark Smith is saying, while he draws a different conclusion and doesn't take the Dying and Rising God issue for other reasons, probably influenced by Jonathan Z. Smith, you're saying, no, it's not. He's saying a more nuanced scholarly approach, not a dogmatic no, but like, I'm not persuaded, and here's why I'm not fully persuaded of the Dying and Rising motif. And am I assessing that properly, Neil?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure that I'm...
Yeah, but the point I was making is Mark Smith, Jeremiah Coogan's translation is clear. It literally says Baal is dead. And then we have the lost missing text. And then we have a clear scene of Mott getting destroyed by Anat, and then Baal's alive again. So however you want to interpret the in-between, the nature of the resurrection. Yeah.
It wasn't really resurrection. He was lost, wandering or something like that and came back.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we have to think, could this influence later cultures that might want to rewrite this in a different way? That's the question.
Myths always take on a new spin.
The question, they're trying to make it a different question. They're trying to make the question is those sources don't actually exist the way you think they do. No, they do exist that way. The question isn't the question isn't does Dionysus resurrect? The question isn't is Horus born around the winter solstice? Those are sources that we could find. The question is, does it influence the Christian tradition?
Of course, because that's the whole point.
Get out of this fake area and go to the real area.
That brings me to this point, Neil. We have to address this. This is important. Michael Jones went, why are they getting upset? Why are they responding? Which I wouldn't even say we're upset. I think it's more of a challenge. It's like we're having fun. We're competing, and it got personal. And I want to apologize right now just to say, I did not intend this to be a shit show or try to it came that way. It got that way because we're being competitive, and it went a bit far. And I want to say it for myself that maybe I went a little too far and it's hurt Michael Jones' feelings. And for that, I did not intend to try and do that. Now, I want to move forward and say this. Jones wanted to know why we even responded since we're not mythicists. Me and Neil have found a problem, and it isn't just Jones. It is several people online that are vocal in various platforms of social media, including YouTube, who go out on their way and pretty much they lump everything that we do into the extreme zeitgeist category as if There is not a nuanced in between. There is no comparison. Jones did that at the beginning of the presentation when he says things like the water to wine, that's nonsense, shut up, post-dates the New Testament, right? Or when he goes on to say, anyone else heard they're dying and rising gods? Yeah, or like that Jesus is just another one of them? Yeah, you know what, it's all nonsense, right?
You know what? I'm going to defend Michael Jones for once.
Okay.
And I actually truly mean this. I'm not joking around. I don't actually blame him really, because there's a lot of experts that do say this stuff that will go up on their shows or whatever in some sort of setting. They will say there are no sources of Dionysus turning water into wine. It postdates Jesus.
Right.
There's New Testament PhD scholars going around like they know the classics, like they have some sort of encyclopedia in their
Unless
brain.
They're classicists.
I checked. You hear them say, I checked and I didn't find anything. What does that mean? You checked? Did you consult a classicist that knows the sources? Is that what you did?
Right.
Or did you Google it and didn't find it right away and then go, doesn't exist? That's what it seems like they're doing. So I want to defend Michael Jones and say there's a lot of experts with credentials saying there are no dying and rising gods until after Jesus. Dionysus doesn't resurrect. That's after Jesus. Or he doesn't turn water into wine. That's after Jesus. You hear that from people like McClellan, for example. That's a more recent one. I know you don't want to talk crap about him on your channel, but I'm just pointing out.
I don't have to talk crap to think someone's wrong.
I know. I'm just pointing out that there are accredited scholars that will push this stuff.
Yeah.
And Michael Jones hears it and then he repeats it.
Right.
So
right.
I almost want to defend him on that.
So you're saying you kind of feel bad because, I mean, we all are going to gravitate toward our bias. We're all going to go, like, for example, if you get me on, Richard Bauckham, right? I can read it. I can listen to him. I could follow his path, but I feel like I'm like walking in this. He's taking everything so eyewitness and so historical as what's happening. I feel like he's missing the narrative, the theme, the story. And he might be thinking, no, you're making story out of history. And so we have these bias that we gravitate toward, and it's going to cause us to kind of draw to certain academics that have certain ideas that we also are in tune with. Whereas
I know I'm biased.
We all are. Yeah. But
no, and you have to put little what do you call them? You have to put little parameters on yourself to so you can check yourself in these biases. So the way to do it is look for evidence on the contrary. Right. Try to debunk yourself as hard as you can. I try to do this all the time. I was just listening to Nothaf's podcast about December 25th, and he's talking about, and I know he's biased too. He wants there to be, and I'm not talking crap about him, but you could tell he wants there to be an existing tradition about December 25th that predates Aurelian's Sol Invictus. And the reason why I can tell is because when he was talking about it, he was like, there's a commentary on Daniel passage from 205. And it says that he was born on December 25th. He goes, unfortunately, he says, I'm sad to say.
Yeah, like he wishes.
He goes, the way he said it was like,
yeah. You
can't use it. It's not authentic passage.
Got it.
I was like, but that's fine. I don't care. I'm biased too. We're
leaning into the myth
worldview. My worldview, I want there to be pagan parallels. I'm looking for that stuff. But the thing is, I also have ways of checking my biases.
Yeah, and here, this is where you could accuse sometimes of us maybe making parallels where there may or may not be, and someone will go, that's parallelomania, and then you can go, but guys, the exercise of none of us are, first of all, you and me we don't have this ontological threat of death and hell and all that kind of stuff hanging over our shoulders, number one. So we have the freedom to do this. Number two is we know that it's happening. We're just trying to figure out where and how. And to do so, you got to be careful with your tools, what kind of criteria you're using, your methodology, all of that in order to accomplish it. And at the end of the day, I don't want to miss out on those parallels at this point because I have found freedom in recognizing this is another duck among various ducks that have walked, quacked, talked, flown like the others. This one won the day. We might want to break apart the ingredients of Christianity and see what happened in its certain time periods that caused its success. I think that Christianity did a great job at mutating to whatever environment it was in. It was willing to adapt and literally become, like your famous video on Twitter, become like water. Bruce Lee says, be like water. You become the teapot. Christianity literally became like Manichaean. Christianity became Buddhist-ish. Christianity became completely Dionysian and Alexandrian. Christianity became imperial cult-like. I mean, Christianity became the thing that it was trying to beat. And what did it do? It won. You know
the example of transforming old pagan temples into churches is a prime example of reforming and reshaping and purifying the culture. Because, the St. George Church to this day was built upon a temple to Theseus. And who is Theseus? He's the dragon slayer. St. George is depicted as slaying dragons. That's one of them I noticed. You also have St. Demetrius Church. Demeter is in his name. Demetrius, Demeter. Demetrius actually means son of Demeter. That's what the name means. Well, there's a legend. There's a 6th or 7th century legend. I think it's 6th century legend, where he gets visited by Demeter in a dream, and is told, Go worship Christ. I'm done. Christ is the real deal. I'm just secondary, like some sort of John the Baptist type of thing.
Right. I love that kind of stuff when you see the transition take place.
Transitioning,
There's fossils still left. That's what we're seeing with rivers and streams being transformed into wine in Epiphanius' day. That's what we see happening with the Epiphany celebration on January the 5th by Basilides, whose text was John's gospel. And clearly, here you have a baptism. There's no birth narrative. So for those who don't know what adoptionism is, let's get into that just briefly and mention what that belief is. Because Christians today have this full package. They have kind of done a diatessaron concept in their mind with all 4 gospels. They've harmonized them, and their interpretation is this conglomerate view of Christianity and Jesus and stuff. They haven't isolated these texts. Basilides is not using Matthew and Luke. Basilides has an idea of Christianity without a birth narrative. His has a baptism. He's an adoptionist Jesus became incarnate, God in the flesh at his baptism, not at his birth. That's why it's so significant that this is, the epiphany for him, that the manifestation of Christ is at his baptism. However, very early on, Christians also saw the birth as the incarnation of Jesus. And both of those were celebrated on the same day.
Can I share something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. This is pretty important too. Let me know when I'm up.
You're up.
Okay, so Hippolytus is talking about Basilides in his Against Heresies, and he says, Basilides, the Savior is sufficient witness when he observes, mine hour is not yet come. And obviously Basilides is citing John here. That's more proof that Basilides had John's gospel. He's quoting from it. Mm-hmm. And then it says, this is according to the Basilideans, who has been conceived as the inner spiritual man in what is natural. So he's becoming born into the flesh from somewhere else. As John's gospel points out, the Logos was there in the beginning. He takes on flesh. He was born before the time he's not, the natural birth is not important to John, right?
Right.
And so the sonship which left there, the soul, not that it might be mortal, but that it might abide here according to nature. That's the soul taking out a fleshly body. Just as the first sonship left above in its proper locality, the Holy Spirit, remember the dove comes down, that is the Spirit, which is conterminous, that is, I say, is he who has been conceived as the inner spiritual man and has then been arrayed in his own peculiar soul.
So this is born from above, which is what you're saying. John's gospel, notice there's Logos. He comes in the flesh, but they don't narrate a birth. The first scene in the first chapter is the light came, and there was one who knew of the light, but he wasn't the light, and it talks about a baptism right out the gate. There's a baptism.
It also says this, children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God.
Yep.
The Logos became flesh and made his dwelling among us. And it says, I saw the Spirit come down from heaven as a dove remain on him. And as myself did not know him, but the one who sent me to baptize him with water told me, the man on whom you see the Spirit come down and remain is the one who will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. I have seen and I have testified that this is God. So this is the Epiphany, the birth. The baptism is the Epiphany. It is the birth.
Yes, so, the manifestation of the God through the dove that's visibly coming down and indicating that, which we get in Mark and in John.
Which brings us to what Clement was actually talking about. If you want to show that real quick, and then I'll let you take it over, because I just want to make sure we're on the same page of what you and I are trying to say about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Clement of Alexandria. Here we go.
Now, this is the Greek. Now, New Advent has a really bad translation. And I just want people to point out. Now, before this, as Michael Jones correctly points out, he's right. Before this passage, Clement's naming off a bunch of Christians' birth dates for Jesus. They're all May 20th is one of them.
Yep.
This one, that one. And then he all out of nowhere goes, but those from Basilideans, hoi de apo Basiledo, kai tu baptismatos atu ten emeron. He says they also celebrate the day of his baptism, but the ordering is weird because he puts the baptism. He celebrates his baptism also the day. So like he's emphasizing baptism as the day. That's what it looks like.
Right.
Stephen pointed out that you could probably infer from this that this is like a replacement for the birth. The fact that
because above in the previous paragraph, right, which I don't have that up here right now. I wish I did. No, we didn't expect to get. That. But in that earlier by the way, the Greek here is ambiguous. We've had some Greek experts analyzing this, and it's a bit ambiguous. But in the context above, you do get birth and baptism mentioned. And then notice here the Basilides are clearly indicated as being someone who celebrates the baptism, but it also seems like it could indicate birth here. Right. And I'm not saying this.
Like I said, the fact that he's on the topic of birthdays in this passage, and then just kind of throws in the Basilideans, they celebrate his baptism
right
on this day. And that the Tain Hemeron is a big deal, I think, on his day. So that day, his day is the baptism. That's basically what he's saying. That Tain Hemeron, see the red Tain Hemeron?
Yep.
On the left. If you go up, we don't have it, but if you look at the Greek before this, he uses Tain Hemeron for the birthday.
Right. So it's the same the day, which is used for baptism and for birth. And this is why
I just want to be clear that Michael Jones is right. He doesn't explicitly say the birth of Christ is on January 6th. He's right.
Right.
But
it's even while he doesn't, very soon after Christians do on the very same day. So like you can argue, at this point they haven't put all this stuff, but when Christians are throwing spaghetti dates at the wall, the ones that stick, that really stick, and we still see celebrated even to this day today, is this important January 5th, 6th day and December 25th. December 25th comes later, but it ties in with the winter solstice. Why is that? Why did they stick with this date? What is so significant? Could it be that this date was so important among Gentiles, the very people Christians are targeting, that they needed to co-opt a day? I mean, you just mentioned a temple, right? A temple for Theseus, who's the dragon slayer. Look, scholars have pointed out sacred spaces typically remain sacred spaces. Notice we read Epiphanius talking about the shrines that they visit where the rivers and streams turn to wine in his day. We're talking 4th century AD, 400 years later, right? Past Christ. Here you have, and past really Pliny, who's mentioning these things. Seneca, Oedipus, right? Which we mentioned. Seneca talks about the streams literally transforming into wine. There's many other myths about this with Dionysus that describe streams, rivers, shrines, fountains, you name it. And here we go later, and we see this, shrines, rivers turning into wine. Then we see the same day that is emphasized by Epiphanius as a celebration of an Epiphany and Saturnalia, all this stuff in all these regions. You're going to tell me it has no influence on why Basilides chose this date? Why Christians ended up capitalizing on usurping it? They chose temples and converted them into churches. They chose, I would say, narratives that were among the non-Jewish world and perfected them in their own Christian context. They do it on every level. Dates, celebrations, temples, narratives. They've done it with all. I'm trying to be consistent here, and it looks obvious to me and Neil that that's what's happening.
Yeah. And like I said, there are churches to this very day. Here, this is an article right here from Greek City Times. Let me share this real quick. You'll like this.
Yep.
This is just one of many examples of churches. To this day, January 5th, the eve of the Theophany. And they do this thing on January 5th where they come out and they do a fast where there's another this blessing of the water. That's what I'm talking about. The blessing of the waters tradition. I think there's a Wikipedia for this. I'll actually pull it up in a second.
Okay.
There's a blessing of the waters tradition starts on January 5th, not January 6th. To this day.
You kind of have to ask yourself, like, why did they start doing this on this day?
And it has to do with waters too. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So
it's just an odd coinkydink.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, look, it sucks because I think what happens is there is ego, there is a bit of dick measuring contest and wanting to debunk, and also, we're tribalistic humans, right? I know a lot of people in the chat were like trying to act like I was some Billy Carson fan or supporter and stuff over on his channel. And I'm like, no, because there were certain points that Billy said that I actually agreed with. Neil, you know what I'm talking about? Billy, in his debate with Wes, there was things he said, like, I don't know, God being a male in the Bible. Why is God considered a male? And of course, the Christian position is that, hey, God is neither male nor female. They just use male pronouns. And I went in there and debunked that and was like, or at least brought up, I didn't debunk it. I brought up scholarship that actually shows, no, dude, and there's plenty of other books on this. I become a Billy apologist.
Right. So here's the Great Blessings of the Waters is performed annually, once on the eve of the Epiphany, January 5th, and once on the feast day of the Theophany, January 6th. That's still to this day going on. And
yeah,
I think it's Coptic, Syriac, and Armenian churches.
It's deeply rooted to the very origins.
I'm not surprised it's Coptic either. That's where the Gnostics were. They're down in Egypt.
Look, I'll phrase it this way. Since the epiphany of the church itself, through its own literature, this date, I'm not talking about the epiphany of Christ, the epiphany of Christianity itself, its manifestation, literally, this date has been significant. Why? You want to just chalk it up to, well, they just started on the first and just started reading a chapter at a time and they ended up at the baptism somehow, or a few verses and they ended up at the baptism. That's an interesting calculation way of trying to explain why they landed on this specific day that just so happened to be, it's like an odd thing of saying this day just so happened to land within my own internal bubble of my own literature on the same day that the New Year's festival with the ball falling, right? We're doing a countdown and everyone is celebrating. And you're sitting here going, thousands of years later going, no, the reasons Christians chose this day has zero to do with the fact that the entire world at the time in the Greco-Roman period is celebrating a Dionysian festival and his Epiphany. Nothing to do with that. They just sat down at night, read a chapter a day from January 1st, and landed on that day. Oh, baptism. Now let's make this one of the most, if not the most important days, till December 25th ends up taking the birth for the is it Eastern or Western Church? I think the Western Church took December 25th.
Yeah,
and
West. Yeah.
Yeah, the West. And they were initially January 6th.
Started in Rome first, yeah.
I don't know how to make this more obvious on our end.
Guess what? So this is another thing. I was listening to No Theft. He was pointing out how similar Saturnalia rites are to Christmas. And he was like, it's not just the gift giving and the decorating, but he goes, but it's also the King of Saturnalia ritual, which you see with the Lord of Misrule all the way over in England. But then he says, my only problem with this, he goes, I'm willing to grant that they're borrowing. He goes, my only problem with this is the geographical locations are off. Why wouldn't we find this in Rome, in Italy?
Right.
But guess what I found? And I knew this before, I just found this to back up my claim. Saturnalia wasn't just celebrated in the city of Rome. It was celebrated in every Roman city. Every Roman city. That's what the sources say. And I found an actual primary source, a physical piece of papyri from London, from England.
Right.
Not London. It's like a city outside of London. It's where an old Roman military city was. And guess what it says on this little papyri? Dated to the 1st century, 2nd century AD.
No way. What's
Guess what it says? Bring me some fruits and vegetables and lentils for the Saturnalia.
Ah.
So they're celebrating Saturnalia all the way where the Lord of Misrule. So No Theft, which is, I think he's a great scholar. I want to get him on my channel. I like him.
Yeah.
But his only issue with Saturnalia influencing Christianity, because he was trying to explain to Tim O'Neill. He goes, the dates don't matter. The dates, that's not what anyone's arguing. No one's arguing for the dates, dude. He goes, it's about the season, the time of December influencing later times of December. He goes, it's very simple. Tim O'Neill just goes, but the dates do matter. Anyways, let's not get into that. So then he goes, I think there's a lot there for Saturnalia influencing Christianity, influencing Christmas. He goes, my only problem is the geographic distances. But I have a defeater for that. So I don't know. When I talk to Nothath, I'm interested to hear how he responds.
That sounded like the same kind of thing Jones was bringing up about this Epiphany celebration. Oh, we can go to the island of Andros. We can go to Teos. We can go to these regions. But those regions aren't Alexandria. Those regions aren't. You see what I'm saying? Like as if somehow.
That's a fair thing to throw out in this
discussion. Of course,
should be looking at geographic location. They didn't have the internet back then. They didn't have email. You have to look at things at a case by case basis.
Right.
But like I said, we pointed out that this theophany of Dionysus is in like 10 different cities, and they're doing it a little bit differently, and the dates might not be the same. We both explained that. We don't know for sure if the January 6th thing was the same for Naxos and Andros and Ellis. And
I think there are different dates for different ones of these, but either way.
And the Haloa and Linnea are both winter solstice festivals. The month of Poseidon in the sources it says, which would be December 15th to January 15th. So we're in that period now for the rural Dionysia, it's called. City, not the city Dionysia, the rural Dionysia.
Right.
But like I said, Saturnalia, we have evidence that it was worshipped. It was not worshipped. It was commemorated in every Roman city. Every major Roman city was doing Saturnalia. So I don't know. The geographic thing is
the question I would have is like how many polis, how many regions have a Epiphany of Dionysus being celebrated or some form of this?
That's a good question.
And I imagine there's stuff we don't have sources for anymore. Like we've lost a lot of where these celebrations took place, but it's clear in the sources we were even reading in the original video I was doing. There's at least like 5 places in one source or 6 that are disputed, and then he ends it with, and many other places still dispute his birthplace as well. Because the idea that, again, it's that he's born here and he returns bringing gifts each year via wine. So like they're arguing over it's his birthplace in here, Teos, Naxos, the list goes on and on, right? With all these places. And then he ends with, and many other places. I wish he listed all of them, because maybe Alexandria would have popped up. Maybe Tyre would have popped up. Maybe because there were Tyrian myths about the origin of wine, and in mention in Achilles Tatius, where he talks about, we think we're the mother of all the vines, and that this place has this kind, and the Chian wine, which is clear, and there's this and that. Like, dude, it's clearly all over the Roman Empire. Stephen is saying, and he's flexing on us with his Greek, because Stephen is the man. Go check out Cross Bible, by the way. If you're looking for like a Bible search site, you're trying to do like Bible Hub, or you're looking up anything to find verses, go to this website, check him out. And he's got an amazing site that's actually going to do things that none of the Bible sites we have right now online probably already can do, but he's going beyond that with his site. So let's see what he did here. Neil, okay, he brought the whole thing up now.
We have the whole thing. That's awesome. So you can see
take over.
So you can see here, Clement is going through these different calculations that were going on in his time period. The 28th year of Augustus, the Gospel of Luke, that's a birth narrative gospel, and so forth. Go to the next one.
Okay.
Coming to his baptism. Oh, that's mention baptism too there. That's a point.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, this was also said by the prophet, the gospel of 15th year of Tiberius, 15th year of Augustus, 30 years are accompanied until he suffered Epiphan, so he's throwing out the dates. Go to the next one. Trying to find the important. So here we go. This is the one that we're talking about. Agenete was born until the death of Commodus, 194. The birth of our Savior, Genese, to Soteros and Meron.
See, this is what makes me think, like, okay, hold on. The birth of our Savior, not only calculate the year, but also the day. A specific day.
That's what I was getting to. Tain Hemeron, the day. So my thing is, and I don't know if Steve might not agree with me on this. I think he said that it's plausible when I talk to him.
Okay.
My thing is when he establishes the day, Tain Hemeron, you have something now that you have a subject for what's being discussed. The day. So if you continue going through, he gives all these dates. 25th of Pakon is like May 20th, whatever, Egyptian calendar. He's given these different dates, and then you get to 20, where he says, but those Basilideans also celebrate the baptism, the day, Tain Hemeron. To Tain Hemeron. They celebrate the day of his baptism. The day. So my thing is, my thing is the ordering of the Greek is emphasizing the baptism before the day. So I'm honestly saying we don't know for sure. We can't say for sure that Basilides is, or Clement is saying that Basilides celebrated the birthday, but I think you can infer from this that the baptism is a replacement for the birthday, considering the
one
other
and the
evidence,
same,
considering all the data we have from Hippolytus, from
Epiphanius,
John's Gospel, from Epiphanius.
The way Epiphanius describes it is it's 30 days, he's born, right? Because he already accepts the birth. Remember, he's arguing against people who are like all sorts of heretics in his Panarion, the medicine antidote, if you will, his book called The Antidote, the Panarion. In it, he says 30 years from his birth to the day he was baptized on this exact same day that we're talking about. So, and then he even goes, and those idolaters, they do it on the same day too. But it's like he acts like they're like devilish imitations of the Christian celebration. And I'm going, bro, they've been doing this before you guys. Like the idolaters and those Dionysian and cults and whatnot, we're already doing this before you guys, Pliny the Elder, on this exact same day. Like, I don't know how much, dude, I don't know what else we could do at this point except for like dig up a new papyri that says, hi, I'm Jesus, and I'm doing this on this day because Dionysus did it or something. I don't know anything.
Speaking of idolatry, I want to show you something.
Okay. I've got some supers to get into after we're done here. I'm sorry if I skipped your super. I just had to pop that up. Then. Okay.
This will be my last.
I know you got editing to do because you got a Christmas present coming for everybody, right?
The guys are seeing my script for my video right now. It's I think it's 15,000 words. I think the script. Tertullian, so it's like a 2.5-hour video. Tertullian says around 200 CE, right? This is right around the time where these calculations are being done by Christians, or right before it, at least a few decades before we have evidence of that. All right. So he says, this is how I know people are, the church fathers are doing the opposite of what people are trying to claim they're doing. So I'll give you an example. In his De Idolatria, he talks about the devil, forsooth, has plastered over the Christian profession with his showy gods, that he may glorify himself in the pomp of the Christian names, as if he too were in it. He goes on to say, this is a few passages later, he says, however, the majority of the Christians have by this time persuaded themselves that it is permissible to make use of this kind of feast day, as they think, on the ground that its observance is of a general character. By us, however, who are strangers to Sabbaths and new moons and festivals. Remember, at this point in time, Christians thought it was taboo to celebrate birthdays, and they only had all they cared about was Easter at this time. Christmas wasn't a thing yet. It was just Easter and probably a few other feasts that are related to the Bible. Whatever. Matronalia are frequented. Brumalia, Saturnalia, and Calends. Presents come and go. He's complaining about presents and gift giving.
Gift giving, yep.
New Year's gifts. Games, they're join their noise. Banquets, join their din. You get the point. So he's basically saying, he's basically horrified. He's horrified that Christians during his time
are so drawn to these festivities.
Yeah, late 2nd, early 3rd century, right before the Christmas thing happens, Christians are already taking part in Saturnalia rituals.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you need besides that.
It just shows. Did you want to read it?
Yeah, this is the last one. So Origin, where is it? Here it is. Origin says on birthdays, this is in 245. And now there's a reason. I'm going to explain why this is a big deal. On birthdays, when the lawless word reigns over them, they dance so that their movements please that word. One of those before us has observed what is written in Genesis about the birthday of Pharaoh, and has told that the worthless man who loves things connected with birth keeps birthday festivals. The worthless man keeps birthday festivals. And we, taking this suggestion from him, find in no scripture that a birthday was kept by a righteous man. This is in 245. This is 30 years before Aurelian instituted a temple dedicated to Sol Invictus on December 25th. So that means in Origin circles, birthdays for anyone in the Bible was taboo. Now you hear this claim all the time from people that it was a popular tradition. This is what they say. It was a popular tradition, Derek, that when a prophet or a famous person died, that they would say he was born on the day he died. I've heard McClellan repeat this talking point. I've heard Tim O'Neill repeat this talking point. It's not true. We have one example, Moses. And guess what? He was born on the day that, according to the Talmud, which is way later, by the way, the Talmud says that because of the passage in which passage that he dies in Exodus, or is it Exodus or Deuteronomy? Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, where it says, and on the 120th year, Moses had died. So they go, oh, he died on his 120th birthday. Oh, interesting. But here's the thing about that. First of all, I heard Dan McClellan say it was popular for historians in the 3rd century to say that when a famous person died, that they were born on that day. Where's an example? I haven't seen one example. On top of that, when it comes to if we're gonna stick with the Moses thing for a second, let's run the Moses thing. He's born on the day he died. Jesus was not born on March 25th. He's conceived on March 25th. So they change it. They change it from he's born on the day he died to he conceived on the. You have to take all these steps to get there. Do you understand what I'm saying? How the speculation is through the roof. Tim O'Neill asked Nothaf this question. How do we get from he goes, how do we get this tradition where people are born on the day they die? Nothaf corrected and goes, we just don't really know for sure. There's not really good examples of it. Wait a minute. You're the one going around the internet telling people that this was a famous thing people did. It's just not. And even Nothaf correctly points out, it's based on speculation, which is based on speculation. Right. It's not very scientific to get there.
That's kind of what I was getting at when Michael Jones was bringing up how they came to, and it's not Michael Jones's idea. I'm not trying to blame him, but when he was bringing up how they came to January 5th for this Epiphany, it was simply from reading Mark chapter 1, verse 1, and then coming to the readings, landing on the baptism day of being January the 6th. So almost like they're reading it as a calendar type of text, lining up with, January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and landing on this day as if it's the readings that led them there. And I'm not saying that there wasn't some type of Christian, let's adopt and match our text up to the ceremonies and the moons and suns and all of these special days and holidays.
Which is taboo, by the way, which is taboo for Judeo-Christianity.
So depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, it begs the question, because you're on one hand you're saying, well, they're not adopting from paganism, but they're doing this cosmic solstice thing. But that's that both of those can be true.
Everyone's doing that, right? So like I'm saying it could be both. It doesn't have to be either or.
And I want to make this very clear. I grant that I even think that Nothaf and Schmidt are right, that in 222 and 235, I do think that Hippolytus and Julius Africanus did do some calculations with the intent, because guess what? Their calculations are wrong. If you're going to calculate the day that Jesus was if you're going to calculate when the Passover happened from the years 30 BC to 33 or 29 to 33, try to find out which 4 of those years, which one it landed on, none of them will give you March 25th. It's either all of them. I think all of them are in April, except I think one of them is March 30th out of all 4 of those years. Right. So that means they didn't do the calculations right. which means that tells me that Hippolytus and Julius Africanus were intending to do these calculations. They were trying to get to the solstice.
But doesn't that prove Nothath's point when he was saying to Tim O'Neill by saying the dates aren't what matters? It's the festival. It's the landing on the celebration of the spring equinox is the point.
Nothath says that he thinks that they purposely calculated the solstice. They purposely wanted to get to the solstice, which is fine. I'm willing to grant that happened before Aurelian's feast day. Fine.
Right.
We agree there. But let's be honest about what Christians are doing here. They're trying to get this date. They're trying to get there. Then the next question is, why are they trying to get on the solstice? Right?
I mean,
why?
The New Year's ball is falling. We're in our little corner and we're just making this up ourselves. And it's coincidence, or is there intention?
They say John was born on summer solstice.
Right.
Jesus was born on winter solstice. These little cosmic Christian figures. It's kind of interesting. I think it's true. I think they did do that.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, look, Ion, right, which is celebrated. This is Dionysus, Osiris, and later in the Summa as Adonis. Ion, the deity that is mentioned by Epiphanius, who is paraded around in the temple of Cori, which Persephone, literally on the same exact day. They see him as a zodiac deity. I'm not saying Jesus is, and I'm not trying to get over the top here in terms of trying to be overly zodiac here. But if your dude is a guy who's combating Sol Invictus, a guy who's combating the well-known cults of the world, I hate to break it to you, if I'm a businessman or if I'm even in a cult and I'm trying to compete and I'm trying to adopt and co-opt these audiences, my dude's going to be better than your dude. My dude's going to land on the days, and he's going to. The best analogy I can give, and this is so bad, this tells you how I grew up, obviously playing in the woods most of my life and outdoors. When a male dog, pisses on a tree around another male dog, that other male dog comes right behind him and marks their spot over that other dog's spot. It's animal nature, human nature, and I'm saying these cults are competing, and Christianity wanted to win. And they would do anything they could to win. So much so that eventually, as you pointed out, we get some death conversion. You better convert or die kind of stuff happening.
This is a depiction of Ion contemporary with this time period where all these solstices are happening. There's a source from Porphyry about Mithras and the solstices and how the mortals are gaining mortality during the summer solstice and they gain immortality at the winter solstice. That's a weird passage. That's at the 3rd century as well. And then so Ion, this is Ion with the zodiac around him, and then according to Epiphanius, he's born of a virgin at the winter solstice.
We didn't have that source, did we? Nope.
We didn't.
I didn't have that one already.
Show it? It's up to you.
Yeah, dude, they need to see this. This is like when I saw it and actually went through it. Before we go, we have to show them this. When I went through this, it was like impressive to see. Epiphanius is not a nobody. He is literally in the school of the first, I will say, Christian historian in the world, Eusebius. Now we're talking about bona fide Christian historian.
He's a successor of Eusebius.
So he has all this guy's library.
His job when Eusebius died.
Yeah, and
he was
Eusebius,
the librarian of the whole Roman Empire. He had all the sources that he needed.
And Eusebius' duty was to try and hunt down the past and figure out things. This guy's trained by the best when it comes to trying to.
Does that mean he's always honest? No.
But
when he's saying something that, when you have to think about it, is there a reason that he would lie about Ion being born of a virgin? That's not something that makes sense for a Christian to say.
Yeah.
So it would make more sense that he would lie and say Ion was not born as a virgin to defend the tradition of. So you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
You can't use. I heard people make the argument. Well, Epiphanius slanders Christian heretics and other parts of his works. Yeah, I know, but
he does.
What does that have to do with Ion being born of a virgin? Why would Epiphanius make that up?
I don't think.
Let's pull that up.
Yeah, I'm looking for.
It should be in the. It's not in the slides.
I
can pull it.
I don't think he. Yeah, pull it up because I've got the Panarion here. I've got books 1 and then I've got books 2 and 3. It's so big that they're separate books. I mean, this is not a small book. There's so much material.
Give me 1 second. I have it right here.
Cool.
I have the Greek and I have the two different translations that we can look at. Oh, what the hell? I just got faked out by my Microsoft Word. It was like, click on this one. As soon as I clicked on it, it moved over. All right. Here it is. Let me share my screen.
All right. I'm waiting on you.
There we go.
Okay. Yep.
Epiphanius, Panariot, 51. For indeed, the Savior was born in the 42nd year of the reign of Augustus, Emperor of Augustus. I'm just going to go up a little bit.
This is Jesus' birth. Clearly, yeah. Christ was born. Christ was born 8 days.
13 days after the winter solstice.
Yep.
This day is celebrated by the Greeks. I mean, the idolaters, on the 8th day before the calends of January, which Romans call Saturnalia, the Egyptians call Chronia, and the Alexandrians call Kikelia. For the 8th day before the calends, the division occurs, the solstice, and the day begins to increase as light gains addition.
I'm with you in that nature and observations of nature is more important on how they're going to shift their cultic activities and stuff than it is about a number.
It explains, and this is I'm gonna highlight that point in a second. Let me finish this off.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So he says, which is called the Epiphany. So he titles it the Epiphany again, from the beginning of increase of light. Mm-hmm. And the reason why there's 12 days between the solstice and January 6th is because of 12 disciples, fulfilling a number of 13 days, blah, 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 blah. And he says, the leaders of the idolatry religion are forced to confess a part of the truth, and the deceivers to deceive those convinced by them. Idolaters in many places conduct a great festival on the very night of the Epiphany, so that those hoping in the deception would seek the truth. Remember, the night
would not seek the truth. So
it's the night of the Epiphany. Remember that.
Yeah, he's saying they're doing this over here in this Korean and these celebrations to deceive, so that others would not seek the truth. That it's this apologetic. It's
very early apologetics. And Alexandria, they call it Koreum, the precinct of Kori. That is, by the way, that's the mother of Zagreus Dionysus.
Yep.
In Greek mythology,
the original mom, mom of Dionysus.
Dionysus's godmother, not his flesh mother,
full divine.
Yeah, and flutes with the singing to the idol and spending the whole night. And by the way, someone pointed this out to me: the crowing of roosters. Abraxas has a rooster head. That's Basilides' god. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Basilides is considered the one who invented Abraxas.
I always get caught up and think about the roosters crowing, and then I'm you know what I'm talking about.
That might have something to do with the Basilideans. I don't know. I'm just pointing that out.
Got it.
It says they descend in torches into a certain underground shrine and bring out a certain wooden statue seated on a litter, naked, having a golden seal of a cross on the forehead, and 2 other such seals on each other hand, and 2 on the knees, 5 seals made of gold. And they carry this statue around the middle of the temple 7 times with flutes and drums and hymns. And after celebrating that again, bring it down to the underground place. Being asked what mystery this is, they reply, this hour today, the Kori, that is the virgin. And by the way, those parentheses are in the text. So
you're not adding that.
No. Let me just show you guys. Where's the Greek? Parthenos. Where are you at? Wait, I cut off. Oh, it's over here. Parthenos. I want to show him this because someone would be like, that's parentheses. What? Where is it? Here, I'll do a word search.
And just while he's doing that, the point is his mother is a virgin. In this, according to Epiphanius, the tradition has it that Kori the virgin. There have been scholars who've written on this. Some have tried to Christianize it and say, oh, that's just a Christianized term being lifted over here. Others think, no, we're not giving the benefit of the doubt that there are dual traditions where Kori is known as a virgin, just like Mary is known as a virgin.
There it is. The Kori, Tutesen e Parthenos. That is the virgin. All right. Just want to make sure nobody.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure they know there are scholars who dispute this, what it means in this thing, right? But anyway, keep going.
Gave birth to Ion. The virgin gave birth to Ion, the guy with the zodiac around him. By the way, there's other depictions of Ion where he's holding a snake on a stick, which is like some people will say that's like Sethian Gnostic. Anyways, this also happens in Petra, the city, the metropolis of Arabia, which is Edom, written in the scriptures. In the temple there, they praise the virgin in Arabic, calling her Ka'abu, that is Kori, or the virgin. The one from her, Dusaris, which is a very famous god from Arabia, who is linked with Dionysus in several sources by antiquity authors. that is the only begotten of the Lord. And this takes place in Elusa, which, by the way, that's in Israel. Elusa.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that till recently. It's I think it's near the Galilee. I'm not sure. Don't even ask me that. But it's in Israel. The city on the nut. Yeah, look that up because I want to find out where that is, if it's close to Jesus or not. As is there in Petra in Alexandria. I wanted to point something out here. What did you say before about that I wanted to highlight? I forgot what you said.
The Virgin?
No, there's something you said right before that where you said, oh shit, now I can't remember it. Anyways, I'll think of it.
I don't know. I do know
something, and I was like, I'm going to highlight what you just said there.
What was?
I can't remember it now. Damn.
I will. Oh, I do know that in one of the sources of the scholars we're reading in German that we're checking out one of his works from 1913, who talks about the born from a rock concept that was something that people in this region of Petra actually had for Dusaris, and this we hear this even with Mithras. So like, and he describes this with the Kaaba. So it's like, okay, hold on, what the hell is going on here? There's so much going on here to consider. And I don't think we're crazy by seeing.
Yeah, and if you read Ion's written about by Poimandres. Poimandres is one of these famous Neo-Pythagorean Platonist writers from late antiquity. Some people consider him Gnostic, whatever. Some people throw him in that category. But he writes about Ion, and he calls him like the divine logos and demiurge creator. Like he's like this soul. He's like Christ in so many ways. Ion. I want to show people what Ion looks like.
I thought you did. You just did the Zodiac Ion.
Well, there's the
other one,
Antioch, Syria.
Yeah, pop it up.
Believe it or not, in Antioch, Syria, Mosaic, Antioch, Syria. I don't know. For some reason, this is hard to find.
By the way, at some point, you and me need to go through some of our footage and our journey into Israel, because while we were in Sepphoris, there's more stuff. I didn't even remember how much Dionysus stuff was right there next to Nazareth.
Orpheus mosaics everywhere too.
Orpheus and Dionysus right next to the town of Nazareth. Like, crazy.
Here, I'll show. This is cool. People will like this. This is a mosaic of Ion dated to the 2nd century, I think. Some maybe second, late third, maybe early third, something like that. But only after the first. The emblema of the mosaic of Ion and the chronoi. See, it says chronoi right here.
Yep.
This is Ion right here.
So this is zodiac. You can see the zodiac a little.
Yeah, these are different. This is like a trinity god in a way. What I mean by that is, here's Ion. These are 3 aspects of Ion: the young Ion, middle-aged Ion, and older Ion. So that's his time.
What book is that?
What book is this?
Yeah, is that a book or an article?
It's from an article.
Okay. Just saying, people could read that if they wanted to.
It's called Ion.
Okay. Huh.
It's the university.
Nice.
JSTOR. But yeah, this is dug up in Antioch, Syria. And you can see this was built by elite. This is not some random guy building his house for this is, look how nicely done this is. This is the upper
reminds me Roman, that's better than Sepphoris looking, but still there's some stuff like Roman that.
Governor that built this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got me wanting to pull up, man, some of the Israel trip, dude.
Yeah.
There's too much to dig into.
Oh, I remember what I want to say now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're talking about this obsession with solstices. You were pointing this Ion, Jesus, Mithras, Sol Invictus. It's weird. In the 3rd century, all of a sudden there's this obsession with getting people to be born or associated with the solstices. Where Macrobius writes a book called Saturnalia. And you know what he says in this book? He does a theocracia. I have to show you this. Is this
with the different gods, like various different?
Yeah, I promise this will be done after this.
Okay.
Can I pull? Let me pull up one more thing, and then we'll
$20, bro. $20. I got you.
All right. So this will be good to end on because it's so crazy. It highlights the culture of the time period of why December 25th or the solstice became so important.
Got it.
So before I even let me just Macrobius. Do a word search for Macrobius. Here we go. Macrobius Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Is it big enough?
Yeah, I think.
All right, I'll read it.
Yeah, read it.
Macrobius in his Saturnalia makes a theocracia. Attis, Dionysus, Adonis, Apollo, Mithras, and even Pan, he says, are all Yahweh.
Yeah, that's that Yahwehism,
this is
bro.
The same name as Yahweh in Greek. From the oldest manuscripts we have of the Old Testament, the Yahweh is the name of Yahweh in Greek.
And Gad, I guarantee you, would say this is Yahwehism.
Yahwehism, yes.
Yeah.
He's doing so. This is Yahwehism. He's even citing older sources from Orphic hymns that say this. The Chaldean Oracles is one of them. The Chaldean Oracles says that Dionysus is called Yahweh in the Phoenician tongue, Sabaoth, and that it's like a play on the word Sabazius. That's another name of Dionysus. Right. But Macrobius is describing Saturnalia and the winter solstice, and this is what he says: Orpheus declares that the sun Apollo is the same as Dionysus. That's some Nietzschean shit right there.
Yeah.
The son, whom they call a surname Dionysus. And then he says, this is how they elaborate it. Zeus is one. Hades is one. Apollo is one. Dionysus is one. The authority of that verse is based on the oracle of Apollo at Claros, in which another name is also given to the sun, who in these sacred verses, among other things, Yahweh. He's called Yahweh.
Right.
For when Apollo of Claros was asked concerning the god called Yahweh, which of the gods should be considered, Apollo replies, those who know the mysteries should conceal things not to be sought. But if your understanding is slight, your mind feeble, say that the greatest god of all is Yahweh. Hades in winter.
Yep.
Zeus at the spring, sun Apollo in summer, and delicate Iacchos in the fall.
I used this quote in my Origin of Yahweh video that I was doing with trying to show Nisam Amzalog's work to kind of show later these connections that ancient authors did between Dionysus and even Yahweh. Now, I didn't capitalize on what you're describing here, but yeah, there's something going on, bro. There's no doubt.
This is where the solstice comes in, because then he talks about this calendar in Delphi, which, by the way, we found this calendar. It turns out Macrobius is right. This is an ancient calendar from Delphi that depicts Apollo being ruler of the summer and Dionysus being ruler of the winter. So I just wanted to paraphrase what he writes here, but this is the big part. He goes, similarly, some of the images of Dionysus are fashioned in the form of a boy, others of a young man, sometimes bearded or even elderly. Now, this reminds me of Ion.
Yeah.
The aspects of Ion, the young Ion, the middle Ion, and the older Ion. There's 4 Ions total. I don't know what they only have 3 of them that have times dedicated to them. The other one is just Ion. So maybe maybe it's 4 seasons, maybe it's 3 seasons. I don't know. Anyways, like the image of the Greek Basilideans, but the different ages are to be understood in reference to soul. It is very small at the winter solstice. Remember, the birth of Sol Invictus is the winter solstice, right?
Right.
December 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Like the image of the Egyptian, and he just said that Sol is Dionysus in this passage.
Right.
The image of the Egyptians bring out and shrine on a fixed date with the appearance of a small infant. That's like the Epiphany.
That's Ion. Yes, Ion. It's
and that says, since the winter solstice is the shortest day. You know what he's saying here? He's saying Dionysus is born at the winter solstice.
Right. Just like we have Christ born at the winter solstice.
And then he says, then as the days become progressively longer, the vernal equinox resembles a vigorous man, and then a youth. Later, the summer solstice, he has a beard. So he's born at the winter solstice, and then he becomes a grown man at the summer solstice. And they say that Apollo and Dionysus are called Sabazius. So
there's so much more too, I bet. Dude, let me show you this. I know you'll appreciate this as we wind down and get into supers.
I just wanted to point out, though, that highlights the culture of why the Christians are doing this game of trying to get this solstice thing in line. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I agree. No, it makes more sense to me that that's what they're doing, not the let's try to calculate it only kind of thing. There's more to it. It could be both. And I don't think it's exclusive. And they are looking at nature, but they're also competing. And to try and downplay that, I think is ignorant. This is we can't play the whole thing, but I'm just going to show and skim through it. But this Dr. James D. Tabor, the man himself, took us on a tour. This is 2 years old, bro. We've been a while. So we're on tour, and it's horrible in terms of the shakiness of it. But this is, look, right there, right up there. That's Nazareth. Literally, that is the hill of Nazareth. For those who are watching,
you can see Nazareth. Yeah,
I'm dead. That is literally
and then behind us, about 100 feet, there's a temple or a mosaic of Orpheus.
We're about to show it. I think. Okay. Oh no,
that's
you have that shot.
Yeah, I have that. It's about 100 feet behind us, but it's okay. Yes. It's all right. We can just explain.
Okay. It. We do want to show some of the myth. Look at the creatures, and you can see people on horses. This is a Jewish town. Yep. Okay, like this is. Keep in mind, these are Hellenized Jews, and that should like really make you scratch your head about the idea that we have. Oh, this is Jewish, therefore it can't.
Those are first century mosaics from the Herod dynasty.
Let's scroll down here.
The Herods were running Galilee back then. Herod Antipas and all them.
Dude, look at that Phrygian hat. That cap.
Oh, you're right now. We're not seeing what you're showing. I thought you were
gonna play a video. Shut up. Am I really?
We're still looking at
I'm scrolling through, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay.
It's okay. At least
all right. Listen, me and Michael Jones both made mistakes. He muted himself for 20 minutes, and I just made my goof here. All right. So I'm sitting here going, look, this is for Hellenized Jews, and people are probably going, what the hell are they looking at? Can you see as I'm scrolling when things do update, though? It's like picture.
I'm seeing it now. You're moving along.
Okay. So I'm sitting here looking. All right, you can see this.
I remember this. This is where we saw the Centaurs and the.
That's not that mountain right there behind their heads.
That's Nazareth.
That is Nazareth.
Yeah, you could literally walk there.
You can it's a football field.
There's almost no doubt in my mind that Jesus was here, in this place.
I don't know how they would.
And the reason why I can argue that with full confidence is because that was the major hub where trade went down.
And he's next door to a popular city.
If you lived in Nazareth, you had to go to Sepphoris to engage with the broader world and buy stuff and live. Like you had to go there. So he would walk here, and he probably saw this mosaic.
Oh yeah, look at this. Watch this right here. Look at the Phrygian cap.
That's Perseus. That's Bellerophon. I'm sorry, Bellerophon.
Bellerophon on his horse, right? There's James Tabor. I'm trying to. I now know to go with a what is it, a Kimball? There's the queen of MythVision in the back there in the middle. You can see her holding the camera.
That's me on the left. Or no, never mind.
You're here. You're here, bro. There you are. Look at you. Yo, hold on. We got look at that. Look at that centaur looking dude right there.
That's that's a centaur. I remember that.
They have mythical creatures all over their floors. That's beautiful.
That's Greek writing too.
Amazing.
Theos Sabaeus.
What?
God-fearer. That says Theos Sabaeus, dude.
So they might be converts.
Yeah.
For all we know.
It literally says God-fearer on there.
Wow.
Theos Sabaeus. Yeah, that's what it says.
That's wild, bro.
I didn't notice that the first time.
Yeah. By the way, I have so many more videos like this. It's honestly crazy. Look at more. I didn't realize there were so many Phrygian caps in this.
That looks like Orpheus right there.
Bro,
they're wearing the Phrygian caps, and that's how Orpheus would dress too. He was very like feminine like that.
Yeah, there's a big mosaic that I know he wants to comment on. There's different floors. These are different houses, by the way, next to each other. This is the big floor. Here we are. Yeah, this was the big one. There's all sorts of mythical creatures and cool stuff on this one.
Alexandria. That's what it says right there. So it's a map.
Wow. I mean, I can't play it without it probably being glitchy. Is that playing?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay, you can hear the audio, but
that's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, he's talking about which floor is cheaper and more expensive.
That's a beautiful building right there. It's so beautiful.
Man, that was fun, bro. We got to do this again one day. We got to go to Greece though next. We have to.
Do you have the theater of Dionysus that we went to?
Yeah, I was just there.
Remember, James pointed out very correctly, I think, that there's scholars who debate on when that theater was built. Some people say it happened in the Flavian period later, but I think it's better. It's more probably likely that it happened during Herod's. Herod developed way more shit than Flavians did in Israel.
Forgive us for the choppiness of the video.
The Flavians developed stuff in Rome, but the Herods were developing stuff in Israel, especially Galilee.
Yeah, man.
I think this is an early 1st century where I think Jesus could have possibly saw this stuff.
Look at this. I don't know what the dating is. I don't care because I know they were Hellenized at that period anyway. Yeah. It wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah, no, it's very possible.
By the way, this is close. This is close to Tyre. I mean, it's not like right. It's
some of this being earlier, and some of this being added in the 2nd and 3rd century.
But I'm just saying,
but there's some degree of this was from the 1st century BC,
for sure. Look, watch. Look who's right here in this little square block in the middle. Let me see if I zoom in.
Yeah, this is called the House of Dionysus. It's in Sepphoris.
There's James, the man with the plan right there. I start trying to look at other sections. Did I skip the part where we walk in? I'll get to it. But so in the middle there's Dionysus, there's centaurs. Yeah. Let me go over here a little bit. You're going to see, hold on, let me see right here. Getting Dr. Tabor right here.
Remember I dropped my
we had to climb down and get it.
Yeah. I dropped my microphone down into that on the ground there. And it was like everyone was like, you might have to leave.
No one's watching.
And I went down and grabbed it. Yeah.
All right, let me skip ahead here. Oh, who's that guy right there?
Yeah.
Who's this guy with glasses on, man? That's wild, bro. All right, watch this. Now they're showing the treading grapes of that during wine production. All right, showing you the whole mosaic. Zooming in on who is the mythical creature taking part in the festivities in honor of the god Dionysus, the centaur. Anyway, they're showing all that. It's really cool.
That's a walking distance from Nazareth.
Yeah, bro, it's right there. I loved it. I
think at the end of the day, Derek, what we're trying to say is look, we're not saying that Christianity is like a secret pagan religion like Zeitgeist or something like that. We're trying to say, let's open up our scope of how we interpret the New Testament instead of just trying to look at it through only the Old Testament. Let's open up our scope a little bit and let's see what else is out there, because the broader Greco-Roman world was a lot more mixed than we think.
Yeah, and
especially when Sibylline oracles is a prime example. You get pagan, Jewish, Christian stuff going on.
I think also echoing and adding to what you're saying, I think our intention was doing what YouTubes do and combat ideas and stuff. But the whole reason we even had anything to say to Jones at all is because this position that we're taking is not common enough online. It's all extreme or extreme. There's not this nuanced, balanced approach in the middle that actually gives credit to looking for comparative myths. I think people misunderstand it and go, this means copy and carbon copy and identical. And if that's the case, we agree with Jones. That's not what's happening. But we don't agree with Jones because what Jones doesn't open that door for, because he has his own agenda, is that it's actually, there is some type of influence happening there. And that influence, we would say, is probably more in that mythical comparative and actually imitating or even competing with other cults, other gods, things like that. He says in one breath that he's willing to look at it that way, but of course, and I think he might be, but I think in the conclusion, he is trying to say, this happened, those didn't. Then we get off into this whole association and you're equivocating and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got a documentary right now I'm editing. I'm 15 minutes in. It's an hour and 10 minutes. You know, I'm trying to make it quick, but I want the thing to be fun and enjoyable. And I'm going to be dealing with this association fallacy because I'm going to roll out a series on the life of Jesus in mythic, legendary comparisons. Potentially, if scholars have made genetic connections, I'll highlight that. If scholars have made allusions or it's modeled after or it's imitating in a similar vein, it might be influenced by, I'm going to show you that as well from both Jewish and non-Jewish sources. So, Neil, let's get the supers and let you get back to work because I know you've been working here. You know what?
Yeah, I'm on crunch time trying to get 2 videos done before Christmas. One of them, yep.
Again, Joshua Bowen, thank you. Don't not lose sleep at night. I'm sure
it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it is for Michael Jones, and if Michael Jones sees this, maybe he'll go, okay, maybe there is a misunderstanding here.
Yeah, we're granting that he's fine on that. Yeah,
yeah. Evan Spinnenberg, right? The Old and New Testament are a conflation and synchronization of, i.e., Sumerian, Egyptian, and Greek traditions using mimesis, rhetoric, and polypsony. Forgive me if I butcher that. Thanks, guys, for your hard work. I would say I don't know how to incorporate the Sumerian aspect. I would definitely say, Greco-Roman, which is
I would say you still have cults of Ishtar in the 1st century, 2nd century CE. There's still have monuments with Ishtar being depicted in a very Hellenistic way, going down past the Common Era. So I would say even though it's not Sumerian anymore, I would say there's probably transitional fossils in between.
Got it.
That it does make its way down to the Common Era in some way, shape, or form.
That's why I just said Sumerian itself, because we do have Esther and Mordecai, which may be Ishtar and Marduk, and that there's a rewrite or an anthropomorphized, demythologized version of some type of narrative going on there. Jesus lied, read the Bible. Sorry. Michael Jones is being called out kind of like a Billy Carson. I don't even want to get into this whole back and forth.
He's not as bad as Billy Carson. Okay?
No. No one is that bad. Sorry. I hate to break it to you, but no one is, bro. I definitely agreed with like 90% of the facts that I heard Wes bring. But then when he did apologetics, bro, I was going to call the apologetics.
I saw that Michael Jones had the Robert Strasser editions of Herodotus and Xenophon behind him, like I do. And I was like, all right, maybe he is starting to branch out and read some second. All right, well, let's see what he does.
Cool. Again, thank you, Stephen at Cross Bible. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Cross Bible, and check out his website, crossbible.com. Doc Pluralmanaut and the Hizzy would recommend Hilda Davidson's The Gods and Myths of Northern Europe. She parallels these cycles and later Christian reinterpretations. Name it to me again. The Gods
and Myths of Northern Europe. There's a god, by the way, this is interesting. I was reading recently into some of these. I think it's Irish god called Esa, E-S-A. And he's like god that gets like killed and comes back to life. And there's like there's people who are like, are they drawing from Jesus? But then I think the consensus is he existed before Jesus, but the stories about his the stuff that looks like Jesus comes after, something like that.
Okay.
So like there is an Esau tradition of a god named Esau, but the stuff about him that looks like very oddly like Christianity is like 2nd and 3rd, or like 3rd or 4th century or something like that. I don't know.
I just got the book, my friend. Thank you for the super chat, and I will check it out when I get time. S. Mill, John White of Creckenford argued December 25th was 9 months after the day they calculated Jesus both died and was conceived. March 25th, by some church fathers, January 6th may be the same from April 6th.
It's not just John White. This is Nothat. This is Schmidt. This is kind of like a very popular called the calculation theory or calculation hypothesis. Like I said, it's based on a series of speculations, and they all admit this. Number one, you have to speculate that you have to somehow calculate that Jesus died on March 25th, which is it's a weird thing in itself. Then you have to apply, did Christians think that because Moses was born on the same day he died, that they did this for Jesus? And then if you accept that, you have to change from the day he died is when he's born, to the day he died, he was conceived. So then you're altering that, then applying it, and then you get December 25th.
He goes further. Thank you for the next one too. Creckenford episode, November 30th, 2020. 25th December, is it pagan? Should Christians celebrate Christmas? And then they give another one. I'm just skipping ahead here to point out St. Augustine quote on the Trinity, the book on the Trinity, book 4, section 9. For he is believed to have been conceived on the 25th of March, upon which day also he suffered. So he was born or conceived, the same day.
That's Augustine. That's way after all these traditions already exist.
So I think they're trying to get at the point what you were saying about, is it born and dying on the same day or something like that?
Conceived on the day he died. Yeah.
Got it.
But that's not what Moses, that's not what happened with Moses. Moses is born on the day he dies. So they changed the tradition, the so-called tradition, which is it's not a tradition.
It's flexible.
They just I don't know why people say this. People repeat this all the time. There was a popular tradition in that time where when an important person died, they thought they were conceived on that day. Give me one example, please. I just want one example.
Right.
I'm putting myself out there. I could get embarrassed right now. Do you see what
now you're saying this isn't
I
an
just
example?
set myself up to get embarrassed. And if you do embarrass me, now I will change my position. I'll say, "Oh, you found
embarrass him.
Find one example.
Please
first.
Embarrass him.
If you can find a couple of them, I'll change my position. If you find like one example, I'll be like, okay. But I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any. Moses is the only one I found,
and that's in the Talmud later.
It's in the Talmud. Yeah.
Okay. Core Hill, thank you so much for the super. IP is intellectually dishonest. Just today, he tweeted saying non-Trinitarians aren't Christians when he himself says Newton was a Christian when it suits him. Interesting. I'll at you guys there so you can see it. I don't care about the back and it's just an interesting observation. Like, I don't get into this back and forth Christians throwing dung at other Christian stuff. I do think it's really sad to see that happening because you and me, Neil, we look at Mormons and say Mormons are Christians, Basilideans are Christians, Valentinians are Christians.
Why did it take 300 years to make this church doctrine if that's what it took to be a Christian? You understand? You see how silly that is?
The Trinity was there in the Gospels, Neil. What are you talking about?
I think it's in John. I do. I don't think it's. I don't think you can. I don't think that necessarily means you have to interpret it the same way the Council of Nicaea does.
No, but if you do, you know that Karakuni thinks that the Egyptian mythology with its Trinity has some influence from. We're talking about Alexandrian ideas, right? Potentially influencing the concept of the Trinity as well. So, what if, right? S. Mill, I think, did I get this one? No, St. Augustine on the Trinity, Book 4, Section 9. Yeah, I did get this one. But they said it twice.
That's the argument that they make, that he was conceived on the day he died. And like I said, like I pointed out, I would love to see good examples of this being a tradition.
Yeah. Well,
that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you for giving us a super chat at your birth and your baptism, S. Mill, of the same exact super chat. I really appreciate that. Is it Innate Ultera? Forgive me.
Nate Utrera.
Utrera. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Derek, love the vids. Totally agree with your research and source interpretation. What IP is upset about is the personal attacks without getting his side. On the material, though, you guys can agree to disagree, I guess. Laughing my ass off.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to talk with him. If he would have let me come on his stream earlier, and I know maybe he was wondering, he couldn't know that I was coming on to try and explain, discuss, actually reason with him and say, dude, this is where I'm coming from. This is where you're coming from. We're speaking past each other, clearly. But he needed to unburden and let the toxicity flow and the shit thrown at MythVision and the accusations and the lies and the absolutely non-Christian behavior. Or maybe it is Christian. Hard to know at this time. Honestly, I mean, I'm not kidding.
Christian.
Bro, the kind of toxicity that the chat had, I get it too. There are assholes in my chat, and I don't go and delete and spend my time trying to remove everything that's toxic and stuff like that. There's a lot of that happens, but it was bad, bro. It was bad. I don't know if you saw some of the chat.
Oh,
but
they're completely out of there, and they're so. I criticize Islam all the time, but they are so they don't just criticize Islam in a critique way of the doctrines of it. They are completely Islamophobic. You could tell. I'm IP. I'll call IP out too. I've seen him post stuff about goat effers. Really, dude, yeah, I saw him post it.
Interesting. I've never seen that.
Really, dude, you're really falling that far down that you're pushing this idea that there's people. The same motif applies to American Christians in the Southwest,
right?
In the
Bible Belt.
They are goat effers too. You can get this. Do you understand how silly that is? You're basically saying hillbilly Muslims that live that's so. Anyways.
Yeah. I get it. But at the end of the day, I get why IP was upset. Trust me.
Yeah. But
at the same time, it's
no excuse.
While he's going, do you see how much these guys are enjoying being critical of me? Then he's being critical of me and enjoying it. It's he's taking pleasure in critiquing back, right? So It was meant to be a tit for tat competition, not to make an end of friendship kind of idea. He's the one who sees it that way. I did not even think of it that way. I was just bringing guns blazing and saying, no, I think he's wrong. And some of that stuff, we really did get the chronology wrong. But if the only two things you walk away are the chronology, but you never publicly say you changed your position pertaining to the Inanna descent, then you haven't said that you've changed your position. I haven't heard it. Maybe you have, but I wish he would have said, after hearing it from real bona fide Assyriologists who read this shit, know about the Ata and all that, I have changed my view since I did that conference, and I'm glad he didn't. I didn't hear him change it
after he brought up Dr. Josh Bowen. He then went and go, let me repeat my argument again. Here's my argument. And he brought up that other guy again.
So Lanez, however you pronounce his name. It's a 1967 article. It's interesting.
He kind of proved your point, even though you were wrong about
the chronology. Yeah. But then you talk to Josh.
Confirmed you a little bit.
Right. So correct me if Jones watches this. I'm not trying to throw dung, dude. But if you still haven't changed your view, then are we technically necessarily? Well, I'm saying,
but it is a little weird that he would.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's not like we're saying Jesus borrowed from Inanna. Like, what is wrong with accepting the text saying that?
Yeah, you don't have to be convinced by the expert, but it just looks bad.
Neil, all I'm saying is this: Inanna could have been dead for 3 days and 3 nights, as the text seems to indicate, and the experts are pointing to. And you could still say, so what? He's done that the whole time with my wine stuff. Why doesn't he just go, so what? That has no bearing on Jesus. You'd have to prove a causal relationship between Inanna and the descent and Jesus.
Right. You need a note from the gospel author that they.
You need
the descent of Inanna.
Yeah. Ishtar, I am going to borrow from you. Okay. The other problem is, and I did make this mistake. This was on my fault, and this was something I didn't catch. Where he corrects himself and goes, I'm talking about a 2nd century text. Sorry, I meant 2nd century. I didn't catch that. So when I made my critique, he got me on that. He got me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that still doesn't take away from his interpretation of that text and how he still doubled down in this video and said it is water to wine. And then he goes,
by the way,
but why does it matter? Because if he didn't, then it just disconnects from Jesus.
We haven't even talked about that. He blocked me from responding to his video.
That's true.
I couldn't even comment on the video. And by the way, I knew I wasn't blocked earlier today or last night because I said something last night. I go, this should be interesting. People responded to me last night in the comment section.
Okay.
So that means today, before he went live, he decided I don't want to deal with Neil in the comments.
Yeah, he knew you were going to come, bro. Like
with sources and
I already know you were.
All the shit out. He skipped through half the video anyway. He didn't even respond.
There's so much stuff in that video, dude. And you know what's funny? We're rushing each other to try and get that done. There's so much we didn't get to capitalize on.
Yeah. It was a little by our standards, that was a little sloppy on us.
That was, right. Yeah, we did all right. Thank you. James Apperson, I love you both for your passion and your thoughtful efforts to be fair, even while being destroyed. I'm so glad the gods of MythVision always rise again. Hallelujah.
Always.
James, that's right.
Die and rise.
They always die and rise. No, seriously though, I'm trying to be fair. Yes, this is just kind of how the cookie crumbles on YouTube, guys. Right. Searching deeper. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Lots of what you say links to post-biblical traditions. John doesn't imply when Jesus was baptized or water turned into wine. It doesn't apply to Christianity. Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic Church, etc. traditions are irrelevant. So the Gospel of John has to say, hi, I'm Jesus. I'm borrowing from Dionysus. Or I'm imitating Dionysus in order for them to find any kind of influence. I imagine.
So John's gospel opens up John 1. You have your introduction. It's a retelling of Genesis, where the new Adam is the Logos, Jesus. And then Zoe is still Zoe. Because in the Old Testament in Greek, Zoe is Eve, right? So Zoe's still Zoe, but Jesus is the new Adam, right? There's a new thing happening. Immediately, Jesus is baptized. There's no birth scene. The next passage is Jesus turning water into wine. So you can see how the Basilidean tradition would have the wedding at Cana and the baptism Epiphany on January 6th. So John doesn't have to imply that Jesus was baptized to turn water into wine. It doesn't matter. The tradition itself, the church tradition we're talking about.
How earliest Christians interpreted this material.
Yeah, commemorates the wedding at Cana and the baptism on the same day. Then, on top of that, in Epiphanius, we find a lost heretical tradition of some group of Christians in Asia Minor who actually said that Christ made streams of water turn into wine on this day. So it doesn't. So what you're doing here, you're saying that Christianity only can come from John's gospel. Like the Gospels are it, and anything, any traditions that happen outside of the Gospels don't count. I don't know what game you're playing. Those parameters are arbitrary. I'm talking about the whole culture of Christianity itself. I'm not just talking about the text, just John or just Mark or just this. Christianity is more than just Gospels. Yeah. You know that, right?
Yeah, it's important to consider what we're saying here. You don't even have to believe what we're saying. It's worth considering, but there's resistance. By the way, Micah says, Derek, you do understand how either stupid or dishonest you look when you openly call someone dishonest for something that you were patently false about, right? So I'd like to ask this apologist for Michael Jones. Well, I'd like to ask, well, no. I gave the example. I openly said I mistook that Michael Jones. Well, by the way, Michael Jones did get this source wrong.
Right.
The people at that conference did not know that he was talking about a 2nd century source. He only corrected that in the live stream after. And I missed him correcting it after he still rode the 3rd century idea. He still
made up the 3rd century manuscript thing. He didn't. That's not true.
No, that's another thing we forgot to bring up
There's
that
no
we were going to talk about.
Manuscript of a
medieval at best.
Yeah.
Like where is this?
He caught himself. Fine, you caught yourself. But instead of admitting you're wrong, you threw in a white lie about there being a 3rd century. I got confused with this.
Let's not even do the lie thing because that game's getting played by their audience and stuff.
What else?
Michael, I'd like to ask Michael Jones to present us the 3rd century manuscript of Achilles Tatius. Simple as that. If you don't, then you just made a lie, and therefore we're going to play this lie game, and the fans of your audience are going to come and act like I'm lying. I made a mistake. Didn't lie. I made a mistake. There's a difference. So is Michael Jones lying or is he mistaken? And Jones, let's humble ourselves like Jesus asks us to.
Do you know how rare?
Let's say I made a mistake. It's
Do you know how rare 3rd century manuscripts are of anything? Anything. 3rd century? You know how old that is? You're talking about what third? What are you talking about? I don't know what he's talking. We'll see.
But the other thing is, even the interpretation, the way he doubled down on, well, all they had was water at the time. He missed my point in the stream. And we don't have time to get into this in depth, but Neil, the point is, I agree water's transformed into wine. He gets so meticulous about the details when I pull up sources that are pre-Christian that indicate wine is transforming in some way into wine, and then even reverts back to water in some cases. Water becomes like wine when he's baptized into the water as an infant. You die on this hill because you don't want to be incorrect about these earlier sources, maybe indicating what I'm suggesting.
Even if we grant that the language is different, it doesn't matter. We're still talking about a tradition that could possibly influence another tradition. So even if, for example, recently I heard someone point out randomly, Dan McClellan says, oh, Dionysus doesn't change water, doesn't convert the water into wine. He replaces it. Okay. What? So wait, you're saying that an ancient person would have thought that Dionysus, even though it doesn't say this, that it's inferring that Dionysus went and grabbed a water pump, pumped all the water out of the river, and then came back with dump trucks full of wine and dumped it all in? What are we doing here? What kind of arbitrary, pedantic shit are we doing here?
Who
cares?
What's the point, Neil?
Right.
What's the point? The God is transforming.
They can't influence Christianity because it doesn't have the same word. It can't influence it.
That's a little silly. Yeah, that's a little silly. So I don't know. Hold on real quick. And Demetrius, this is the other guy that was commenting earlier. I got to address this. MythVision, why did you think it's acceptable to expose someone who's friendly to you and you've been friendly back for years without reaching at him privately first to discuss? So we have been in contact, and I actually messaged him before I launched this video with Neil saying, let's do a live discussion and hash out our details and differences and stuff. So I was planning on that to happen. I don't know if he still wants to.
I've been trying to get Jones to come on and talk to me I got him to talk about Saturnalia on my channel. I didn't expose him in a video. I got him on my channel to talk about Saturnalia. We had a good talk. Then I wanted to talk to him again about early Christianity. we linked up again, and we had a good talk. And then I was like, when I've been trying to get him back on, he was so sick of me by then because he doesn't like being pushed back against.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I'm booked up till next year." I go, all
that
right,
sounds familiar. Well, Wes said that.
Yeah, Wes does the same thing. I scheduled it, right? 6 months later, he cancels it and blocks me over Twitter back and forths.
Right,
over me disagreeing with him. So I'm
you
blocked by him.
Disagree with people? No,
yeah,
you
I get blocked with people all the time.
You're known for that. But anyway, so expose maybe the title, obviously. I mean, but here's the thing. Me and him were talking about this, about how we use titles that are obviously trying to get you viewers to click our videos. This is kind of the game on YouTube. Right. You need people to watch your videos. If you don't click, then you're not getting the attention you need in order to keep producing more and getting more attention. The more people who click and watch your stuff, the more it gets recommended to more people, and it helps you get more success and more growth and everything like that. So how do we get them to do it? Make titles like that. At the end of the day, how friendly was that live stream with him and Manning mocking me the whole damn time?
Right.
Go back and watch that live stream. Yes, but me and him were cool. We were talking on the phone. Yeah, I'm bringing energy, dude. If anything, Neil, you brought harsher energy. Let's be real, bro. You were much more cutthroat, and I was more like trying to be and trying to understand. And yes, I think some of the stuff did look like he's got motivated reasonings that look dishonest. He could say the same thing about me, but like, look who showed up in his live stream today, was commenting, trying to be friendly, trying to communicate, trying to show up and talk to the guy. He's hurt, but I'm supposed to be cool after him and Manning, like, make all these mocking gestures of me being ignorant and dumb and reading comprehension skills and parallelomania and all this. I'm supposed to sit back and just, now I took it like a man.
Right.
Thick skin, did my response video, thought, let's have our conversation now. I spoke my piece. Let's have it. He can have his hit piece. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I think I'm on the right track with evidence. That's why I thought this wasn't going to be like a make or break. This obviously hurt his feelings and really offended him. He got sensitive about it, and I didn't mean to do that, and I apologize for hurting his feelings. But I'm just playing the YouTube game and trying to come at this as honest as I see, and maybe I should have done things a bit differently, period. But maybe he should have too. And maybe he should change his tactics. That's why I was expressing in my live stream yesterday, I don't like this shitty poop-throwing war kind of stuff. I'm much more of like glass half full, wake up, the sun shining kind of guy. And maybe he should. I don't know if this is his element either, because I don't like that feeling. If he doesn't like that feeling even more, then he should probably go, like, stop being on the front of battle lines against Muslims and atheists and being this guy who is going to get, like, checkmated on some of these claims that he makes or argued against by people who disagree. I don't know. Yeah. That's my advice.
Yep.
Anyway. Final words from you, Neil?
I second what you just said, and I think that's it. I think we're good.
Decades, stop. Everybody, go subscribe. Go subscribe to Neil from Gnostic Informant. He lives 3 minutes away from my house. If you ever drop a video and I'm saying things or I'm getting mopped like Billy Carson, I'm showing up to your door at 2:30, and you're gonna get a video of me on your doorbell, aren't you?
I have a ring too. I can record it.
Anyway, I love everybody. Look, have a wonderful night. I want to do more lives. Me and Neil are going to start doing more stuff too. And never forget, we are destroyed. Just kidding. MythVision. And you have just attained
true gnosis.
Love y'all.